Investigative reporter Aaron Katursky, who's in Lviv, Ukraine, along with ABC's Elizabeth Schulze in Washington for more on all of this. Aaron, a local official in Mariupol says Russia wants to bombard the southern port city like Aleppo, the Syrian city that the Russian military helped to devastate in 2016. What's the strategy there, and what's the main concern as Russia ramps up these attacks?
Hearing that illusion is so chilling, because we know what the Russians have been capable of in Aleppo in Syria, in Grozny, in Chechnya, and the fear is that this could only get worse, and the Russian bombardment could only turn more brutal. And if that's what he wants to do with Mariupol, that's worrying for the civilians that are still there. We know that the Russians have been making advances in southeastern port cities like Mariupol, like Kherson, which seems to be the first major city here to fall to the Russians. And if they then move on toward Odessa, that could block the country's access to the Black Sea. And then you get a sense of what the Russian strategy might be. You isolate the south. That gives Vladimir Putin's troops a potential route to the north to take Kyiv, if that's the aim. It could take a while to get there, but there's no hurry, it seems. In the meantime, the Russians seem to be making inroads in Kharkiv, the second largest city in the northeast. That would then give the Russians control of rich agricultural land in the east, the water access in the southeast, and then you choke off Ukraine economically.
So, Elizabeth, a senior U.S. official says the Chinese had some complicity in the invasion and that all they cared about was for Putin not to start before the Olympics ended. So how are U.S. and NATO allies approaching China on this issue now?
Well, Diane, China's role in this war has been a key source of tension for the U.S. and its NATO allies. As this senior U.S. official tells us, there is reason to believe China was at least complicit in urging Russia to hold off in its attack of Ukraine until after the Olympics. China's foreign ministry has pushed back on this reporting, but it is worth noting that just yesterday, China abstained from that critical UN resolution condemning Russia for this invasion, essentially one of the countries that is holding out and forcefully demanding that Russia withdraw its troops, trying to walk this line to remain an ally both between Russia and the U.S. here. And just yesterday, we heard Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby say that China bears at least some tacit complicity as part of what's been going on here. So certainly something to watch. And it's important to note the ties that China has economically here with Russia, too, Diane.
And Aaron, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky issued a warning to Putin saying, "You will repay everything you did against Ukraine in full." Zelensky is apparently not backing down. So what's the latest on the defense effort, assuming these peace talks don't go well?
Zelensky was downright defiant today, Diane. In his message, he talked about the invincibility of the Ukrainian people, and he rallied the country to patriotism, and he used some really evocative language addressing Russian soldiers who might be listening to him. He said, "Get out of here. Tell your commanders you don't want to die here. We don't want our country littered with the corpses of the Russian army." It was quite striking language, and at the same time, he acknowledged just how hard this is. Extremely hard, he said, for the people who have endured night after night of Russian bombardment. By all accounts, the Ukrainian military is holding its own, but they know they're outmanned and outgunned. The U.S. has tried to help by sending in anti-tank and anti-aircraft missiles, which have already been put to use and helped incur some of the losses that the Russians have acknowledged. The Ukrainians have also successfully mustered civilians. I was out today, not far from here. There's a kind of a nondescript office on a side street where they're giving out gun permits so people can buy weapons. And these were, one guy was a dentist, one guy was an interior designer 2 weeks ago. And now they're trying to arrange to buy guns so they can help join in the resistance.
A lot of people who have never gone to battle before are now becoming ad hoc military members. Elizabeth, the White House is asking Congress to send more than $10 billion in aid to Ukraine now. Where would that money go, and what impact could it have?
Well, Diane, this is part of a roughly $30 billion request from the White House to Congress that includes both aid for Ukraine and Congress. The $10 billion would be to support Ukraine's military operations and also humanitarian aid on the ground. We know that some of the funding would go to some of the forces, the U.S. forces that have been deployed to NATO countries for supplies on the ground there as they're been on alert there. And then at the same time, the humanitarian aid would include food assistance to help those refugees that we're seeing. This is a larger number than had been previously requested, but members of Congress had expected this amount, the dollar amount, to go up as we've really seen what's been happening on the ground, Diane.
All right, Aaron Katursky and Elizabeth Schulze, we appreciate it. Thank you.